Hello, hello. Welcome. Happy space a la Dougie. Hello. I miss the flea market. We used to have this killer flea market around here, but it closed up many years ago. I've been dumping a lot of my crap on eBay just to kind of get rid of some stuff that's not being used, collecting dust. I'm running out of space. I'm a hoarder. Started to thin some shit out, stuff out. But I came across mad amounts of hobby model train track stuff, like crap loads of it. And it's a pretty cool hobby. It is and it isn't. It's hard to explain, but you sort of have to get committed to just one gauge. You really, unless you're pretty wealthy, can't afford all the stuff in everything, every gauge. I don't know how to explain it, but I did notice that I have every main player in the track game except for one. The only thing I don't have is N scale easy track, which is this stuff here. I could do a whole thing about it. There's what's called generically termed Atlas track, and there's about 10 companies that make it. This is the most authentic looking, and if you were going to probably do a layout, a permanent setup, this is what 90% of people use because it is so realistic. But it's kind of tough to use. You have to peg it down. You need a road bed, so to speak. You can't just slap it together and use it. They don't. The little track connectors, they don't stay together, and they'll keep pulling apart on you. And then there's this stuff that locks together. It's pretty nice to use, frankly. It's way expensive, of course, but it's a lot more forgiving and easier to use than the Atlas track. There's a couple of variations of this, but this is the most popular. The other one's not quite. There's very few accessories and track accessories with it. I'm trying to think what it's called. It's like Tight Lock or something by who the heck makes that? Some toy companies got their own track. Besides, it's very similar to this. It's just a hair different, and it's not popular, so there's not as much stuff. As far as availability, the HO scale, which is I think 1/87th scale, is the most popular. It has the most accessories, the most cars, engines, buildings, track accessories, all of it. It's got everything. It's fairly cheap compared to the other ones. Even the smaller scales, which you would think would be much less, are more. They're actually more, which is a bummer. There's one set, possibly even two, gauges that are even smaller than these little guys. So this is the N scale, like N as in Nancy, N. And this is actually difficult to use. These are so small that getting them on the track, getting all the cars lined up, it's actually kind of difficult. You almost need tweezers even to put the cars on the track because your breath practically knocks them right off the rails. So I can't even imagine a smaller scale, how frustrating it would be. You're going to end up with trains probably from all scales for almost And unless you've got track for it, you won't be able to use it. So now you're looking at track for everything that you have. Switches. Switches are expensive now. I haven't bought a Switch since probably like the 90s. Some of them still had price tags on it, which is kind of funny. $1.50. Yeah, they're like $20 each now. And used they're 10 to 15. Brand new, they're up 30, 35 each. What else? So, the one reason why I don't have N scale snap track or easy track is because I wanted to try the Kato track. Supposedly, Kato's like the cream of the crop, the highest quality N scale things. So I ended up going with Kato track instead of the typical Bachmann snap track or easy track. This is so nice too. It's a little expensive, not super crazy expensive, but it's a little pricey. I like it. I like this. Kato does really make really good stuff. This is probably the best track I've ever used. But because it is so expensive, it's tough to do a layout. You really can't do a layout unless you got a lot of money with something like that, because it is so expensive. So I just stockpiled good old-fashioned Atlas track in that scale. You have the 36-inch big long suckers. Even these are expensive. These are $15 a piece. Then there's all the other stuff. This is something that I do because they are such a pain in the butt. Is I kind of like very carefully tape my joints together to keep them from separating on me all the time. It gets a little frustrating, but it's something I've been doing. I haven't really committed on a layout or anything yet. There's also O scale. Growing up, you probably remember Lionel. It's like a household name. Everybody's pretty familiar with Lionel. And that has to have metal track with the three metal tracks, which are in my attic. I was too lazy to go up there and get them. But I do have the modern version of that, which is called the Lionel Fast Track, I think. Pretty expensive, pretty beefy, takes up a lot of room. To do a layout in this, you need a lot of space. And there's another version of this from a company called MTH, like Mike's Trains or something. Some dude that worked for Lionel for years split off and started his own train company. This is actually an MTH. So O gauge are kind of cool because they're big and beefy and they're just heavy. But for the most part, a little too expensive for a lot of folks. You can expect to spend $300-400 per engine. It gets really, it's pretty expensive. O scale, which is nothing compared to G scale or garden scale, which when I was actually when I bought this, when I was in the 10th grade. I think I was a junior, maybe a freshman, junior, sophomore, somewhere in high school. I had put this on layaway for like 3 years. It was like $500 something in the late 90s. Which was a lot of money back then, I had it on layaway freaking forever. The place almost closed up before I got it too. But my point only being that when I had this on layaway, they had a huge display with this LGB German stuff, and I remember telling myself I will one day have that. I had to have it. It was like the coolest thing in the world. That was like the ultimate in hobby trains. It's like the rich guy stuff. Really, only rich people back then could afford that. Nowadays, it's fairly affordable. But the damn track, whoo, it is so expensive. It is indoor, outdoor, but it's huge. It's a lot of brass. And these are very expensive. These are about $20 per piece, which is a bummer. Yeah, it's a bummer. It is ultra expensive. G garden scale, pretty much the biggest of the hobby scales. It's pretty cool. There's something about it. I remember thinking I will have that someday. I don't know. Just one of those things I had to have. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. But even O scale is pretty neat. They all are. They're all actually cool. But the hard part is like committing to one so that you don't have 15 different styles of track. It's kind of a waste. I screwed up. I have so much stuff that it's all a mix of all these different gauges, and if I would have put my effort into just one instead of buying a whole bunch of everything. But in the process of running this around the entire room, it's much easier with this track, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of inclines or declines. This is not as forgiving for things like that as this track is. It's much easier to use. Again, it's a lot more expensive than this, but switches, you always probably end up needing at least one or two of these, unless you're happy with just a basic loop around the tree. But once you want to expand anything further than that, you're going to need a turnout. They call it a turnout or a switch, which you have to have. I think they're $75 for this. I keep watching for used stuff, but it doesn't come up all that much. I was half tempted to try and make it, but then I'm like, yeah, Jesus Christ, look at it. Yeah, $20 a piece, 20, 40, 60, 80 bucks for this. You see these people have that around their entire yard and stuff. But N scale is attractive. Well, I mean, HO is the cheapest and the most accessorized, the most available, the most diverse. It takes up a lot of room to set up a pretty basic layout. You will need at least the very minimum of a 4-foot width, about like a 10 to 12 foot length, just for your standard curve. Enter N scale, where you could put about 3 times as much in the same area. Or if you're limited and don't have a 4-foot by 12-foot space, this is your next option, because you can fit so much more in such a little area. You know, a whole radius, a whole curve is probably only 2 feet compared to a curve in HO, which is 4 feet, or an O scale, 6 feet, or in garden scale, it's like 8 feet, the smallest circle that you can make. So I don't know what to do. I was thinking about eBaying it. I would like to just took it to like a garage sale or flea market, just to get rid of some of it, because I really won't use it, I don't think. And it's a ton. It is a lot. Nowadays, this is so expensive. This track got real expensive. It all did. Hey, what didn't, right? Everything got expensive, really. Thanks, Joe Biden. I have so much stuff. I have well over 100 HO engines. I probably have a couple hundred HO cars. Maybe 60 to 70 N scale The only thing I really don't have a whole crap load of is O scale, because it's pretty pricey stuff. I never really got into it that much because you can't do that much with it. It's so big. You do need like the entire room, or you need a lot of space for O scale, in my opinion. But I don't know what to do with it yet. I just keep bouncing ideas back and forth in my head, and I'll start something and rip it down because I didn't like it. I don't know. I'm due to do something with these. I've never used them. Got a huge investment that I've been collecting since I was a child, and I never use it. Seems kind of ridiculous, because it's really not that easy just to slap up a run to play with it, especially with the Atlas track. You really do have to like tack it down in a permanent position. This is more forgiving. You don't have to do that with this track. You can just kind of snap these pieces together and run with it, which is nice. And especially with this N scale, where you could really do quite a bit in a small area. And click too with this. This is just fast, and I could have this all put together probably 2 minutes. With this, you actually have to spike down each individual piece. You have to make sure your bed, your surface area, is something that you can tack nails into. So whenever I do start attempting to do a layout, I always put down a bunch of stuff, sheets of rubber and cardboard and that like art poster board stuff, so I can stick tacks, nails into the track to hold it. Commitment comes easy for some, not so easy for others. I never did really commit to just one gauge. Like, you know what, this is getting ridiculous. Blowing too much money on things I'll never use. Some of it's so cool. I just like wanted it since I was a kid, and a lot of it I've been sitting on for so super long time. But anyway, the old flea market used to go every weekend. It was open on Saturday and Sunday. It's the first place I've ever seen like a full-blown cross-dresser, like a 65, 70-year-old gross, grizzly guy dressed as a woman. It's a friggin' nightmare. Place was a trip. But thanks for hanging out. I'm sure maybe a couple people could be here in their quest for railroading knowledge. It's a pretty good size hobby. A lot of people are into it. A lot of people are into model trains. Kind of queer. They don't do a whole lot, but they're cool to look at. I don't know. Sometimes the detail and stuff is pretty impressive. I don't know. I'm a typical 12-year-old. I do things like try and make the longest train I can. I'll put the track up on the like steepest grade possible and see which ones will make it, which ones don't. Stupid shit. Here's some Kato cars. I mean, the details is just beautiful. Something about Kato. This stuff is so nice. These are like little simulated cargo shipping containers. With Gunderson cars or whatever. I never knew that's what they were called. These were like I've always wanted them, and they were well over $100. And finally they went on sale on Amazon. I want to say for like 50 or 60. I ended up getting 2 of them, and I don't like them. They're not what I thought they were. They share a truck, which is like the biggest pain in the rear in the entire world. So they didn't just come like a normal train car with all the wheels already attached and the trucks, attached to the car like every other train in the world. This one, you've got to like line this up, get this on one side, get the other one on the other side. It is so difficult that I've yet to do it successfully because it's so delicate that I'm such a jerky and like shaky and klutzy putsy person that I just every 2 seconds I just hit it, knock it over, or forget, bump it, or jerk and shake. It just I've yet to been able to assemble these because they're so delicate. You almost need a pair of tweezers even with these. They're just so light. They're like nothing. I could probably blow hard enough to make this fly across the room. It sucks working on them. So I don't even really like them. I'm disappointed. I should have just sent them back. The shared truck. I was like, what? So yeah. It doesn't really lock in there right. It just kind of sits on there, and it's like you need the Lord Jesus himself to help guide this thing. I've never successfully done it. It's the only time I've seen that. A shared truck. I gotta stop doing that with my finger. I'm holding the camera with my wrong hand. Oh, some of it's so cool, the bridges, and I've been trying to start to one of the big aspects of the hobby is the creativity, the artsy diorama, being able to make scenery and make scenes and scratch build buildings and lakes and have a realism to it instead of just throwing handfuls of money at it, buying all this plastic buildings and stuff. A lot of people make them themselves. I took a crack at it. I made one building so far. There's nothing to brag about, certainly. I wonder if I can reach it from here. I just used that like art board, poster board stuff. Made like a little building out of it. Yeah, it's right there. My first attempt. Crap, he's all squished away. But and then my roof came apart. This was the roof. My hot glue didn't hold. It was kind of like that. Whoa. I'm trying to get the idea. Anyway, I'm sure you get the point. Surprised it didn't hold. They even made like little wooden siding and shit for it. If you look really close, it's actually handmade wooden popsicle stick siding. And there's little plastic plexiglass windows that you mount at the backside. But some people really dig that stuff, the art side of it. landscaping, creating the mountains and the scenery and all that, and the buildings. Yeah, birds. Thanks for hanging out. Can't take it with you. Well, I never use this stuff. It's such a waste. What a silly, ridiculous waste of money and time. And you know, it is a hobby, but it's not the most rewarding. I don't know. At least not for me. I don't find it to be all that great for some reason. It is kind of neat. I do like trains themselves. The trains are really sweet, but the hobby itself, I don't know. I throw the thing around the Christmas tree, it's about it. That's the only thing I do with them. Though I get a bug in my butt every now and then, get a bee in my bonnet to try something, because I do have so much stuff. I could literally make one of the most impressive layouts in the whole state with what I have here. There's enough track here to run this through the whole neighborhood. Oh man. I even have a gauge yet. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what the hell it is. There's 4 or 5 of them up here. I actually have no freaking clue. Almost looks like it's homemade. See if there's anything on here. Not a thing. Yeah. But yeah, model trains, I don't know. They're getting expensive. It's getting to be a little bit of a pricey hobby. Then again, what isn't? Everything's gone a little crazy. The used market for these trains is kind of a racket. There's a lot of shady people that sell crap out there. You kind of have to be careful with the used train market. There's a lot of shadiness going on with that. They're selling fake engines and stuff. Broken shit. Fakes, knockoffs. Plastic toys that don't even really have engines. But thanks for hanging out with your old Dougie. Happy training. Happy model railroading. I have to sell it. Wish I could find some rich dude who wants to buy everything at once. Got way too much shit. This is buildings. Some of the cars are so cool. Some of the engines are so cool. What's not to love? Look at that. That thing's awesome. The old King Charles. These. I have like 14 of these. I used to really like these growing up, so I had got a whole bunch of them. These are probably close to $100 to buy them now for this stupid HO train car. It is probably 75, 85 bucks plus tax. It'd be 100. So here's some N scale stuff, which is just so minute, so minuscule. it can actually be kind of difficult and stressful and frustrating to work with because it is so freaking small. You'll just, you'll be trying to hook these cars up, and you just look at it wrong. They're so touchy. It's just so touchy that you can't, you'll be trying to get this one on, and you'll knock the whole line of them off, and ugh. This is an antique too. You wouldn't know by looking at it, but it's super, super old. Bachman China. Well, maybe not that super old, but at least 25 years old. Do you like collecting some like of the antique ones that are brand new? They're super old, but they've never been used. And in my case, still have never been used. Usually Lionel, which is typically known for the big O gauge stuff. Like all companies, dabble a little bit in other, not their main bread and butter gauges. It's kind of weird. Like Cato does have like HO gauge. I do have a piece of it around somewhere. It's a really nice track. It's kind of pricey. The Cato HO track. Let's see where I put that. I just accidentally ordered a piece on accident, and I never sent it back. Where the heck is it? I just had it. Here it is. The Cato HO track. It's pretty nice. Definitely sweet. From Japan. Japanese. Thanks for hanging out. Have yourself a good day. Bye-bye.